If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Today, businesses change so quickly, and you mustn't be afraid of when you think things are not working to make a change.
Entrepreneur is someone you throw out of the airplane and then they figure out how to make a parachute while on their way down.
I've never met any successful entrepreneur who's absolutely 100% committed to their business.
I don't think that AI can replace us anytime soon. What are your thoughts on the future of marketing when it comes to AI? What's the most overrated marketing buzzword used today?
Ironically, it's a word that I've probably used myself a lot today.
What is more important, strategy or execution?
Businesses die because of poor execution.
What's the biggest red flag in a marketing pitch deck that you see? Hello everyone, my name is Poojan Ajani and welcome to Strique Talks. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Steve King and he is the ex-CEO of world's largest marketing agency, Publicis. Hello Steve, how are you?
Thank you very much for having me. Just for clarification, very nice introduction. I was actually CEO of Publicis Media, which was obviously an important part of Publicis Groupe. And then most latterly, I was COO for Publicis Groupe. But had a long journey, as I'm sure you're going to get into with Publicis.
Definitely. So Steve, would you like to tell our audiences a bit about the journey that you started and what was your experience like and during this experience?
I was born in London. I went to university in London, and really didn't have any idea of specifically what I wanted to do or what career I was going to, like I guess many young people today. My degree was in business studies and marketing. And at the time I started looking for work, it was really tough. And so I actually took a couple of roles, actually selling advertising space. I knew nothing about advertising. And it was sort of commission only, really tough. And in fact, the first two magazines I worked for went bankrupt, went bust. And then by happenstance, one of the TV networks in London, which was called HTV, was taking on graduates. I applied to the graduate scheme and got onto that program with a whole load of other people. It was expanding at the time. It was the start of a network called Channel 4, and they wanted people to sell the Channel 4 network. So I stumbled into that. There was no plan about that. And I worked there for a couple of years, and then I made the move onto the advertising agency side, joined one of the UK's biggest agencies. And then from there, that became the launch pad to create a separate business, which was called Zenith. Zenith was the first media dependent in the UK. So this was the first time that an agency group had the idea they'd create a separate business for their media planning and buying. So it was owned by the advertising agency. It was owned by an agency called Saatchi & Saatchi. And a few of us started that business. And obviously, it was a very innovative move. It was the first time someone had done that. There was a lot of resistance from media owners, a lot of resistance from clients who were very skeptical about the benefits. And it was like in all startups, it was very tough journey. There was a change in the management, but gradually we managed to make some success. We managed to win some new clients. And then I did various roles. I was in charge of media buying. I was in charge of account handling, client service. I think I became managing director. And then I was offered the role of going to help start the same business called Zenith in the US. So then I was probably about your age then, very young. We had 2 or maybe 3 very young kids, and we made the decision, my wife and I, we would do this. And I then made to move to New York. I'd never been to New York before, and if it was tough doing it in the UK, or at least I knew the market and knew the environment, setting a new business up in the US, still owned by the advertising holding company Saatchi & Saatchi, was extraordinarily tough. Just I didn't know anything about the geography of the US. I'd go and visit clients, had to get the map out, find out where the clients were. And it was definitely probably the time where I had the steepest learning curve, because I'm dealing with things like any startup, how to find office space, how to build an infrastructure, how to build health plans, how to hire people, how to let people go, all of these things, we had to self-learn. So it was a very, very good experience, extraordinarily tough. It was really, really brutal, those 3 or 4 years. But at the end of that time, this Zenith business, which a lot of people said, oh, it's never going to work, taking the media out of the advertising agency. That's obviously the norm now. And that was, I guess, 25, 30 years ago. And of course, everybody accepts that this is the best business model, although ironically, people are now putting creative and media back together again. So it was very exciting to be right at the birth of a new industry.
You know what they say about the entrepreneurs? The entrepreneur is someone you throw out of the airplane and then they figure out how to make a parachute while on in their way down.
I think that's a good, I've never heard that before, but that's a good analogy. And, we didn't quite realize it at the time, but, we were definitely, trying to break the mold for a very established industry. So that's a good analogy, yeah. But in my case, I was jumping out of a plane. I wasn't sure I had a parachute.
After Zenith, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but Zenith got acquired by Publicis.
No. Yes. So that's right. Yeah. So you've done your research well. Yeah. So we were, it's a little complicated, the story, because our parent company actually split. So we had 2 parent companies. One was called Saatchi & Saatchi and one was called Cordiant. We were a JV, Zenith, and about this time I then made the decision to move back to the UK. I became the CEO for the business globally, and something I learned was it's very difficult to be successful when you've got a JV where the 2 different parent companies have different ambitions for the business. One wanted us for the asset stream, the other wanted for the dividend. So they got incompatible aims. It was a very interesting learning that if your JV owners don't have the same financial incentive, you're never going to get any clear decision making. But eventually, you're right, is that the ownership went to Saatchi & Saatchi, and we were then acquired. Saatchi was acquired, and Zenith was acquired by Publicis. This would have been in early 2000s. And at that time, we became a fully owned subsidiary of Publicis, which is who I then worked for. I went on to the management board of Publicis, I guess, 25 years ago. And they had a media business called Optimedia. And we decided to merge Zenith and Optimedia. And again, that was something I'd never done before. I'd never merged 2 very similar businesses, but interestingly, very complementary businesses. One had, the Zenith business had a real strength in lots of the Anglo-Saxon markets like the US and the UK, and Optimedia had a real strength in some of the continental European markets, France, Germany, Italy, Spain. So it was a good complementary skill set, and we put together a new management team. And I said, look, it's really important that we create a real clear point of differentiation for ourselves. And we decided that we would create a positioning around being the ROI agency, the return on investment agency.
That's fantastic tagline. One of the best taglines I have ever seen.
Yes, I think in lots of these things, in hindsight, you say this is a great thing. It's like how I stumbled into the business. But when I was in the US, one of the things I learned, if you've got any business, you've got to have a very clear proposition. I mean, today there are thousands of companies doing in the marketing services business. And I always say it's really important. You've got a really clear point of differentiation. And, at the beginning, we probably weren't delivering any more ROI than any other agency. But the important thing is everybody in our organization knew that we were the ROI agency. Every time we pitched for a client, we would wear the ROI hat. We would try and put together a proposal that would deliver for the client, customized ROI. We would hire people to help us accelerate and amplify the ROI positioning. People would come to me and say, oh, we want to buy this company or we want to merge this skill set. And I'd say, we're only going to do that if it's consistent with the ROI positioning. So it was, I wouldn't say at the time we thought ROI was going to be such an incredibly vibrant point of differentiation and a sort of lighthouse for us in terms of where the company should be. But I would say if anyone's starting any business, if you don't have a clear point of differentiation, it's very difficult, I think, to set yourself out from the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to add a little bit more on that, on top of that. While you have a clear you can say that if that's correct or not, but while you have a clear distinction on who you are and what is it that you do better than the others, it is also important that you deliver value to your clients and they see that value, and that should happen directly. If I'm saying that my business does XYZ things for you, but that might not make you revenue, or that might not make you some popular or some sort of XYZ advantage. If that advantage is not clear from the day one, people start to question, is this investment really worth it?
Yes.
And in case of the Zenith, where you say this is ROI agency, there is absolutely zero reasons for any business owners or the CMOs to say we can't go ahead with this, because they give you the direct revenue. And that was something that I learned from my uncle while a few years ago, me and my brother, we started this small agency, and we were doing social media posts. And during that time, the whole concept was we make social media creatives. So if there is Christmas, we make, say, this XYZ brand wishes you a Merry Christmas, and we post it on Instagram. And I showed it to my uncle saying that this is what we do. And he says, how does that impact my revenue? Why do I need this? And we said, this is for brand visibility. This gives you a better exposure to the brands, and people can relate to your brands. He said that if you don't impact a business revenue directly, then the chances of your survival keep on thinning out.
I think that's a really good point. So if you'd have said to me, where did this ROI positioning come from? It wasn't anything that anybody internally suggested. It came from our clients. And I went to go and see a lot of our key clients. I remember I was I actually did a trip to Asia, and I was in a session with a whole load of senior clients in Hong Kong, which it happened, could have been anywhere. And I was sitting at dinner and I was saying, what is it how can we help you? And it was the clients who actually said, look, there's lots of agencies doing media, planning and buying, trying to help us on research, trying to find innovative ways of reaching customers. But honestly, what we need a company that can really help us deliver ROI. And I'm not even sure if I knew what ROI stood for at the time. And so to you, it's consistent with your point. Actually, there's so many companies who try and internalize what their point of differentiation. But a great starting point is what can we do? Go to your customers and say, what is it that we can do that can really add value? And, Zenith has gone through many iterations over the last 25, 30 years. It's still a very successful brand. But I would say today it's still the most highly recognized positioning of any agency group in the world. And sometimes I'll interview senior talents from our competitors, and they'll say, "Oh, how can you say you're the ROI agency? We deliver ROI." I said, "Okay, well, what's the positioning for your agency?" I won't name any of them. And the person could be the CEO. They go, yes, we've got a new positioning. Yes, it's around people, or it's about transformation, or it's about this. And so many different agencies don't have a point of differentiation. So they're working for clients, hoping to create a real point of difference. And if they don't have a point of difference for anything, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
Exactly. So that was something which is really insightful to our audiences as well. So let's talk about the Publicis. And you mentioned that you joined Publicis, and then after the acquisition, it was in early 2000s.
Yeah.
And you were in the senior position for almost, I would say, 24 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And during that time frame, what was the quantum of the ad spends, or how much business was? So this is just for our audiences to get overview on how big exactly, what's the scale that we are talking about when we say the world's biggest marketing agency. What was the ad spends like? What were the brands?
We would have obviously started when we started in the UK. We started from virtually nothing, obviously. And then over time, we went to, we started, I remember when we were, we passed through $1 billion. This is the ad placement. So the total amount of money that we were investing. Not spending. We said we invest our clients' money. Very important. Return on investment. So we'd always say we're investing that money. It got to $1 billion, and then remember it passed 10 billion, and then 25 billion, and then we went through 50 billion. So, And in terms of the Publicis Media, obviously that business has continued to grow, partly through winning clients, expanding the scope. And obviously at the start, it was a very linear business, which was just the placement of the buying of media. And then you'd add different areas. And of course, the media environment is so broad and eclectic now, and you've got social media, and you've got retail media, and you've got commerce and content. And now, obviously, I'm not now with Publicis Media, but we would have had somewhere in excess of 30,000 people around the world in offices, and nearly every one of those offices we would have started from scratch, and obviously having a consistent positioning and platform, everyone understood what they do. And over time, we integrated businesses. And then from my running Zenith up to media, and then in about 8 or 9 years ago, Maurice Levy, who was the CEO of Publicis, for some reason thought it would be a good idea for me to take over running Publicis Media. And gave us that 30,000 plus employees around the world. And, again, we said, look, we've got different brands. We had Zenith, it was one of the 4 or 5 brands that we had. That had a very clear positioning, as did the other brands like Starcom, for example, Spark. And then I said, look, what we need is a positioning for the media parent group. So this was Publicis Media. And again, this is 2017, 2018. And I went to see a lot of our clients, and I gave myself 3 or 4 months to decide. I was putting together a new management team. This was the first time we'd had a management board made up of all of the different constituents. So I needed to represent equally all of the different companies coming in the group. I needed to have different skill sets in there. I needed to have somebody responsible for new business, somebody responsible for technology, somebody responsible for platforms, for delivery, etc., and obviously geographical responsibility. And we decided to go on a very radical transformation of the businesses as it had been, and decided to simplify the business by centralizing everything we possibly could. So things like finance and HR and new business and technology and investment. And we would still have the brands with their independent positioning. But I spent probably 3 or 4 months traveling around the world, trying to decide about the best structure and organization for the business. And at the time, I felt that there was generally a lack of trust in agencies. A lot of our competitors were carrying out business practices which were considered to be self-seeking and inappropriate. So things like, how they had things like owned barter companies, for example, undisclosed arbitrage on behalf of their clients. So there was a big skepticism in terms of the agency. And also, as you all know, there was a big concern about the digital ecosystem and which channels were safe, levels of research and data. So as a result, we decided to launch Publicis Media in 2017, 2018. And we decided to do that with a clear mantra around 3 words, and it was trust, talent, and transformation. And so we launched this business, and that was sort of the driving essence for the business. And again, the benefit was I could go and talk to a client, and they say, what are you about? What's your point? And I say, you can trust us implicitly. We're going to have fully transparent contracts with you. We are going to employ the best talent on your business, and the people you see in the pitch are going to be the people who continue to work on the business.
That's one of the biggest challenges in for the founders or the business owners, where the CEO comes and pitches to them and then shows them this is what you're going to get. And the person who does the execution, oftentimes the quality of work that was promised and the work that was delivered, there is a huge difference in that.
So one of the most important metrics on clients that we would win would be saying to the client, in a year's time, we'll come back and see how many of those talents that you saw in that pitch are still working in your business. And I would always say, I can assure you, because you can trust us, that number will be at least 75%. And in many cases, it was 95%. So that was a really bold commitment. And then I would say, we are transforming ourselves. And similarly, we will operate in a way that helps you as a client transform your business. So trust, talent, and transformation. So again, it was another example of having a real clear positioning. So we had Zenith was a subsidiary of that business. It was one of the 4 or 5 media business. They have a very continuous the ROI, but the overarching positioning of Publicis Media was trust, talent, and transformation. And again, that came from our clients rather than something we gestated internally.
Over the course of, I would say, 3 to 4 decades, what is one thing that you think is really hard for a founder, or in your case would be you, saying that I can handle the recruitment, I can handle the XYZ things, but this one thing, this is really, really difficult for me, and this is something which really stresses me out?
Yeah. Very difficult when you're talking about launching businesses. I think, the speed of change is so dramatic now. You can launch a business today and you need to continually innovate. And so you need to have definitely very clear strategy for the business. Everybody needs to understand that. You need to have a clear principle about what you're trying to operate. But it's critical that you have an equal emphasis on execution. Strategy without execution is worthless. Execution without strategy is, again, road to ruin. So you need to have a clear strategy articulated, and you need to have very strong execution. But I think today businesses change so quickly, and you mustn't be afraid of when you think things are not working to make a change. And you look at any of the digital platforms, Facebook was not the first social platform, and you think about how the challenges they've had and, going into the mobile environment, for example, even an entrepreneurial company like that, the change. Now, obviously, they've got how are they going to embrace AI? So whether you're of the smallest entrepreneur or the largest, how do you ensure that you are innovating? And I think, honestly, the simple thing to do is talk to your customers, talk to your clients in whatever business you're in, because it's the clients who can tell you how their needs are changing and how your business needs to ensure that you can change at a pace which allows you to keep ahead of the competition.
Okay. And you mentioned something about the AI. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the future of marketing when it comes to AI? Is it going to overpower the existing work that the marketers or the folks at agencies do, or is it their future is safe? Because what we have seen is that the content creation, the video generation, the creative generation, copywriting, all of this is getting replaced with AI. What are your thoughts on it?
They're in the same way. Some of those big clients you mentioned, have can go and say, look, there's a company really innovating the way that they're using influencers, or there's somebody who's really pulling up weeds in terms of they're linking social content to data to commerce. There's another company maybe just specializing in retail media. So, providing you're creating a cadence and a growth trajectory, I think, the marketing environment is one where talented people with a clear vision and a delivery engine can always succeed.
That's really something. And so over the course of, I would say, 3 decades, have you met founders or people whom you take the meeting who have absolutely zero idea about the ROI or the ROAS or the return on investment, on how is it that they do? Or if that's the case, how is it that you explain it to them that maybe you should not look at the impressions and the reach, but maybe you should focus on the revenue that's coming into your system? Has that happened to you before?
I think for most businesses, I think the KPI really is quite simple. It's revenue, it's revenue and clients. Those are the two things. I think whether you're on the service or the manufacturing side, it's two. Thirdly, you need to make sure that you've got profitability, so EBITDA. And then fourth, and not unimportant, you need to make sure that you've got a good handle on your cash
flow.
Yeah. Yes. Because it's and some of those other businesses that we talked about, obviously, if you think about Amazon today, is a hugely different, for most of the time of Amazon, you think that's an incredible pivot from when they were unsuccessful, unprofitable, Uber. You needed to have deep pockets and a real confidence about your business model, of which they had. So you can't ignore the financial imperatives of a business. So it's very unlikely any company is going to get an audience if they don't have an understanding of core business metrics, and you either have that because you went to business school or you need to learn that. And I think that's of all of the successful entrepreneurs I've seen, they have a passion, they work extremely hard. I've never met any successful entrepreneur who's absolutely 100% committed to their business. They're passionate, they're absolutely focused, but they also understand the importance of the business metrics.
I'd like to share a story on this. While I told you that we were starting with an agency back in, I think, around 2019, we, over the course of, I would say, 6 years, we have came across countless founders, agencies, brands. And there was this guy where he had a fantastic product. It was a backpack. And that backpack was way, way better than anything else that was there in the market. Unfortunately, the company didn't survive. And I believe the reason for that is that while he was so passionate about the product, he said that revenue, finances, they are all to be taken care by my CEO or my accounts and finance team. I'm not the person who's responsible for this. So while their backpacks made it out across the globe, they were never really profitable. And then they sank, I think, around last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you are. You've far more eloquently than me, Poojan, made exactly the same point I made.
Exactly.
That if you are naive or ignoring the business imperatives, it's all very well on focusing on the product, but if you don't understand the importance of sustainable financial health or how you're going to get there, it doesn't mean to say that businesses today, I mentioned Amazon, Tesla, Uber, Airbnb you mentioned, these are businesses which were all running at a loss, but they had a business plan of how they were going to deliver profitable revenue, which they got to. So it sounds like your friend with the backpacks perhaps didn't have that. He just thought, I'm going to deliver the best possible backpacks, and I don't care whether these are sold at each item is being sold at a loss. That is obviously a business, unfortunately, that wasn't going to survive.
Exactly.
Sorry for that guy.
This was not just one guy. So while we were building this, and this is how the idea of Strique came into picture. Is that when we talked to many of the brands, they had zero clue. They only cared about the revenue. Where's my money? What's the expense? What's the ROAS? And on how is it that you are supposed to increase your ROAS depends on various factors. If that might include improving your customer support, that might include improving your ad distribution, that if you're spending more on Facebook or on your Google, you should do these many things. Unfortunately, no one had this clear understanding of where the money is coming in and how is it that it's flowing about. They were just gambling it all away and hoping for the best outcome. So that's when we decided to build Strique, where it allows you to connect different platforms to your own Strique app. You can make your own reports. So assuming that if you are the founder, you can, let's say, look at the key metrics that are important to you. And let's say that if you are running on tight cash flow, you might need to look on daily basis. So you can have those specific set of widgets that are catered towards you. You might want to see what's the revenue from the platform. So if Facebook is coming in, Google is giving you some revenue, your offline POS point of sale might be making some revenue. You want to see that. While on the other hand, the CMO or the marketing guy might want to see the different campaigns that are being run on Facebook and social media. They can have a look at that kind of data. And all of that can be delivered to your WhatsApp, to your email at, let's say, 9 in the morning, along with the AI summary for it. So if I have to give you an example, this was from my experience that many of the brands, they used to have a website guy. That website guy's job was just to enter the products onto the website. And many of the times, because of their goof up, the product listing was not optimized. As a result, they uploaded a 10 MB video to the page. Now that 10 MB video needs time to load. So as a result, when someone opens that link, it takes forever to load and it just drops off. No one was able to figure out how is it that and why is it that that's happening. Now when they installed Strique, the AI summary analyzed everything and it showed that this is the exact problem with the landing page. This is something that you should focus on. Maybe people from London are buying more, but people from Birmingham in the age range of 25 to 34 are giving you more returns. So maybe try excluding them, or maybe try to find out which are the products that they are returning and try to see the exact reason behind it. So it gives you some level of summary for that. And while we decided that when we were starting, we were trying to focus on all the industries, and then we narrowed it down to just to e-commerce, because that's one of the industries which is quite tightly segregated. If you look at, let's say, lead gen or app installs, everyone has their own unique different things. Everyone has their own KPIs. And again, that was one of my learnings, that if you are entering into a market, make sure that it is compartmentalized and everyone is talking the same language. It can't be that the definition for ROI is different for me and it's different for you. So once we have that, we can identify the problems. So we are building different modules for Strique. The catalog module, it connects your Shopify store, it connects your Magento store to all the Google Merchant Center, Facebook catalog, Meta Commerce Manager, Pinterest, everywhere. And all the dynamic ads that you see on your Instagram, on your Facebook, or on your YouTube, all of them get hyper targeted to you. And let's say how many times, I know that you might have faced this issue where you open the Instagram and you see a nice blazer. But when you click on it to buy it, it says the medium size is out of stock. You might say, this is the size that I want. Now you close that. Now someone who's into the conversion rate optimization team might say that this page is getting so many views, but no one is buying that. That is because the product is bad. But that's not the case. That's because the best-selling units are out of stock. So that's the analysis it gives you, saying that please fill up this inventory for this specific product. Only promote these products which have the higher profit margin. These are the products that have been lying in the dead stock because they are not getting visibility. If you have 5,000 products in your store and they are buried deep down into that, no one's going to have a look at them. So try to uplift their positioning to get more visibility. Once you get more visibility, you look at the metrics like conversion rate versus how many people saw versus how many people buy it. If that number is different, maybe the product is not good. Maybe try putting it in the clearance sale. So all of that can be automated with help of Strique. While I talked about the AI and its importance for this, again, I don't think that AI can replace us anytime soon, because the problems that we are solving are actually helping the business. The way we do it, it could be with help of AI, it could be with help of rule engines, or it could be anything. But the end result is we make more money for you.
I mean, the interesting thing is, you think about what I've said, you need to understand there's a clear market need. You understand the needs of your customers and clients. You've built this Strique platform, I know, because previously you ran a very successful digital performance agency. And out of building that, you recognize the need to say, hey, we've got all these disparate platforms here. They are walled gardens generally, so you cannot get information. We need to find a way of allowing clients to understand how their marketing is working so they can get a better ROI. Exactly. And you got that because you effectively had a fantastic sounding board with your clients. You built this business, I think one of the most successful performance marketing agencies in India, and recognizing that need, you've then tried to build the Strique platform. Exactly. So I think that speaks exactly to what I was saying earlier about, when you're building a business, you need to have a clear vision, you need to understand a customer need, and you need to be able to pivot quickly as business changes. All of those platforms, who would have seen the growth of TikTok, or who would have seen Snap or Pinterest or whatever. So these different platforms and the utilization of all those different platforms, I think speaks to the discussion that we've had.
Yes, exactly. So Steve, to end our podcast, it was really amazing to have you on this. I have some rapid fire questions for you prepared, and we can get started with them. What's the most overrated marketing buzzword used today?
Ironically, it's a word that I've probably used myself a lot today, which is transformation. And the reason for that, I see so many comments, we're transforming ourselves. And you go, really? How are they doing that? So it's not that the word isn't important, but I think it's overused and misabused and misunderstood.
Okay. What's one marketing metric that you always looked at to make sure your campaign was successful?
Revenue.
Favorite campaign of all time, not the one that you have worked on.
I think I mentioned earlier, but it's the Economist campaign. I think it's just a beautifully articulated wordsmith that has survived and for 30 years. And if people haven't seen that, they should look up The Economist.
One brand that you admire today and why?
I think it's those brands that have really created a need and a desire which people didn't think existed before. And so I think, I think of Uber or Lime Bikes or Apple. And those businesses which have actually, you'd have said 10 years ago, these are businesses which are going to decline, and yet they've reinvigorated the business. McDonald's is a great example of how they've really reinvented themselves. I said about my word transform. There's a business that's transformed itself without losing its core principles.
What's the biggest red flag in a marketing pitch deck that you see?
Huge marketing deck, but without a clear point of memorable differentiation. And when I've obviously seen thousands of marketing decks, and I'll talk to the different team. What's the real core message here? And if you talk to 3 or 4 of the senior leaders and they don't give you a single sentence which is consistent, you know you got a problem.
If you were to start an agency right now in 2025, what niche would you go in?
Social creative linked to commerce.
One trend that marketers are overhyping, is it AI? Everything is AI powered.
Everything's going to say AI, isn't it? So, but who knows? Maybe they're underhyping it.
If you had to sum up your marketing philosophy in 3 words, what would they be?
Trust, talent, and transformation.
What is more important, strategy or execution?
Absolutely, unequivocally, you've got to have both. You have got to have both. You've got to have a clear point of differentiation, a really clear strategy, but businesses die because of poor execution.
Thank you so much, Steve.
No, it's been a real pleasure.
It was amazing to have you. I'm sure our audiences would have lots of things to learn from your experience and all the things that you said. Thank you so much.
It's an honor. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Poojan.
Thank you so much.